So, good evening, everybody, and welcome to our next property wisdom talk. Tonight we have the lovely Craig Ince, who's going to be talking to us about his meteoric rise into a property portfolio with everything that he has done so far this year. And he's got a lot of learnings out of that he's going to be very, very generous and share with us tonight. And share some of the story that he and his family went on to take this journey into the property world. So, without further ado, over to you, Craig.
Lovely. Thanks, Joanna. Hi, everyone. Lovely to meet you all. It's nice just to get together and just have a chat, isn't it? I'd actually prepared a whole bunch of notes for this. And for some reason, on my other computer, I can't get them up. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk you through my slide deck, but all of it's from the heart. So, I'll give you all of my sort of experience for the last year. I'll try to remember all of the salient points, and I'll try and keep it as concise as possible. But the first thing to say is that I've got nothing to sell, so I'm only here to pass on sort of some of my experiences and help anyone that needs guidance, support, or whatever. So I think that's something that I've learned through property. Is one of the things that I became really passionate about because of my situation. I'll tell you about that in a second. Is I wouldn't really want anyone to go through what I went through from from a financial perspective, the stress and the strain, being the leader of the home and running everything for the family. So if I can help other people out there avoid that or get out of that, then that's a real passion of mine. So that's where I'm going to start my kind of uh, mentoring, coaching, whatever you want to call it next year. That's kind of what I'm going to focus it on, is around helping people get a plan together and get moving forward. But who am I? So I'm Craig, Craig Ince. I live in a little village called Cheam, which is in London, just on the outskirts next to Sutton. Um, I work in the city. I have a job. I work in the city as in sales, in transformational consultancy. So I've been doing that for about 25 years in technology. So I've got three kids, although they're not kids, they're adults now. So I'm 48. I've got a 25-year-old, 20, crikey, how old is he? 23-year-old and a 21-year-old. She just finished university. And like I said, I'm really passionate about, and this has kind of grown over the last year. I'm just really passionate about property and helping people get on the ladder, but not only on the ladder. It's kind of like doing it in a smart and efficient way. And I kind of guess you could think about. I'm really passionate about helping people create a wealth dynamic that works for them. So, from my experiences of being really up against it to now, where I'm not. I want to see if I can replicate that for other people. So I have nothing to sell here. I've got no courses. I've got no anything. But if anyone wants to reach out to me, I'm on the WhatsApp group. Anyone can call me or ask me for a one-to-one, and I can explain a little bit more in detail because I probably will forget a few bits through this presentation. But if there's anything that sparks or ignites your passion and you want to talk about it further, then please just reach out. Um, and I've got on this slide here, it says everything starts with a dream, and it really does, because if you think about it, and for me, I'm quite a visual person. So if you don't think about things, and you don't write them down, and you don't get a plan or an idea together, it really doesn't really materialize after that point. So uh, we could we could uh, we could call it a dream, or we could call it a plan, whichever way you look at it. But I just wanted to make the point that you have to really work hard at visualizing what you want and how you want it to pan out, because literally, unless that is clear in your mind, it really is hard for your body to follow suit and your brain to follow suit. So that's that. Oh dear, I'm on a I'm on a Canva slide deck, guys. So bear with me. it's quite it's quite touchy. Um, so a little bit about my situation. So does anyone remember? And I'm not asking for hands or ones and zeros like they do on other group calls. But does anyone remember the 2021 sort of financial crisis with Liz Trust? Yeah. Um, so so what I ended up doing was quite radical, and I'll explain how radical it was. But I was really forced into a corner. So I moved to my dream home in 20, 2019, it would have been. I was there 2 years. It was a beautiful home in Sheen, detached, 5 bedrooms, beautiful. I couldn't have wished for anything better. But I was my situation was I was working in the city, paid very well. My wife's a nurse, paid relatively well. All of my kids work, no problem. So we were pretty financially well off. But in moving to that home, and with all of the additional costs that come with it, once we hit the financial crisis with Liz Truss, my kind of mortgage went from uh, 1% to 5.5% on pretty much £1 million, pretty much. So you can figure out, for those of you that do the calculations, you can kind of understand what that is. And that put me in all sorts of bind. At the same time, I got made redundant. Uh, and at the same time, I was selling my house. I lost my buyer. So all of these things happened all at the same time. So I was selling my home for about 1.65 million. I lost my buyer. I got made redundant, and the interest rates changed literally over a couple of months, and it caught me out. Um, and that was quite difficult because as I said at the start, I'm the man of the house. I pay pretty much all the bills. I run the finances. Although I tell my wife she runs the finances. Um, and yeah, there was a lot of pressure on me. Honestly, I kind of ended up heavily in debt. I missed several mortgage payments, which still niggle me now. I had several debts. I missed loads of mortgage payments, loads of credit card payments, but I still managed to find the money to purchase that Touchstone education training. Um, I came across it online. I think it was Abby or Paul. I followed the link. I did the 2 day. We all probably did this. We did the 2 day £99, and that kind of sparked an absolute fire in my belly to educate myself. And it's probably because I got made redundant. I was off work. I was doing the training and had loads of spare time. It's probably since school, it's probably the most amount of learning I've ever done in such a short space of time in anything. But it was in one subject, which was property. So that was my situation. Yeah. I can't really explain to you how difficult it was, but trust me when I say it was highly stressful. You know, uh, robbing Peter to pay Paul. We've all been there. We've all been there. Um, and this is not unfamiliar, especially in my area of expertise in the work that I work in. So I was saying to Joanna before, I know hundreds and hundreds of guys and girls like me that have good, great jobs, lovely houses, 2 cars, dogs, pets, 3 holidays a year, and they're poor as anything. They haven't got a penny to their name because they're financially, I don't want to say immature, but that's where I was. Spending money in the wrong places, um, too many outgoings, too many liabilities, and it really pushed me into a corner where I had to think about doing something different. So that's where I came up with my plan, and kind of my awakening really was through the training where I realized and understood what I actually had in my hands in terms of this property and all of the equity that I had in it. I had quite a lot of equity in the house. So I had about 450,000 in equity in the property. So at that point, once I'd done the training, I understood the art of the possible. I really kind of wanted to close out and get the house back on and sold. So we eventually did sell. And this is the radical bit. I sold my family home. I moved my whole family about 700 yards away, weirdly, to a rented property. And then I used all of the equity, minus all of the bills that I had to pay off and clear the slate. I used all the equity to invest into my company to go ahead and purchase residential buy-to-let properties as part of my portfolio.
Craig, before you go any further, your video has paused. Do you want to maybe just turn your video off and back on again?
Oh, that's awful.
There you go.
Am I back?
Yes, you are. Cool.
Well, maybe I should put the video off because then everyone can see my picture from 25 years ago.
So when Craig came on, I was like, how old is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was me. That was me.
People.
Yeah. That was me doing a sales deal when I was young. But I was actually at a wedding. I got told off for being on the phone. So I can't remember where I'm about to. But my sort of radical plan really was, and this is not a strategy that exists anywhere really in any training modules you'll see. There are other ways I could have done this. I could have remained in the property and used the equity to invest in other things, but I really wanted to clear the slate and start again, basically. So yeah, so I effectively put all of that money into the business and then set about investing that in a strategy and a plan. And the plan really is quite simple. I have two companies. I've got another slide, and I'll show you the companies later. I have two companies. One controls assets and one owns assets. So one's rent to rent SA, and one is standard traditional vanilla buy to let properties. Uh, and the plan was never really to get to seven in 7 months, honestly. But this is something that will come up, is that um, as part of your plan, when you set out to start writing down, and you must write this down, uh, what you want to invest in, what your type of personal makeup is in terms of risk and your risk profile, and how open you are to taking action and how involved you want to be. All of these things you need to think about because as I've been on this journey, I've met every single person I've met is completely different, has different thoughts, feelings. They're in a different part of their life. They've got different situations going on. There isn't one situation between me, Joanna, everybody else on this call. We're all completely different. So there's no one size fits all. So your plan is very unique to you, and no one can tell you otherwise. Um, so what I decided to do was to have a cash flow business, which is my controlled assets rent to rent SA, and an investment business, which is the buy to let business. The idea being that it kind of risk mitigates each other. We have guaranteed rents coming in from the buy to lets, and we have up and down sort of takings coming in from the SAs depending on how busy they are. And it is very up and down, and it's very good at times, and it's very average at times, but generally overall it's good. So that was the original idea. But I was very lucky or unlucky in the time that I was unemployed, in the time that I was literally fighting to stay alive with financially. I did the training. I spent an inordinate amount of time networking with people, driving, visiting, meeting, talking to people without really anything to offer. So I did a lot of listening. I wasn't really ever sort of promoting anything or selling anything. I was doing a lot of listening. So out of a bad situation, it really helped me shape what I wanted to do moving forward. So from that perspective, I was very lucky because I had a lot of downtime. I read a lot of books. I did a lot of research. Did obviously a lot of training with Touchstone, and I utilized a lot of that time. I think quite well in terms of putting my plan in place. So what does that really mean? Is when I sold my property, I was pretty much itching to get going because I'd spent quite a long time doing a lot of research, fiddling around with lots of ideas, and really sort of crystallizing how I wanted to move forward. So originally, I wanted to give up work. I mean, I pretty much burnt out corporately. I've been working corporately for 25 years. Doesn't sound like a long time, but in high pressure sales, it puts years on you like you wouldn't believe. So, having monthly, quarterly targets for 25 years is a drain. So originally my idea, my sort of noddy first draft of my strategy was to give up work and invest in property, and you know, the world would be beautiful, rainbows and sunshines, and we'd get rents in, and that would cover everything else that I needed to pay for. But the reality is that that really isn't the truth. And my strategy has really evolved over this year in that now I see my day job as, although I do love my day job now, because I'm in a new job. I started that job in June this year. Um, I see that job as a way to accelerate my growth, to be able to reinvest into my business, to be able to supplement and support my business through any difficult periods, so that we can get to 10, 15, 20 as quickly as possible within 3 years. So yeah, I guess what I'm saying is here, if there's people out there that have got the impression that it's dead easy and you can buy 7 properties in 7 months, I was very lucky. My risk threshold is very low, so I take a lot of risks, and that's not the same for everyone. And some will pay off, and some won't. Luckily, so far they've paid off, and I'm sure one won't somewhere. But in your plan, you really need to understand who you are, uh, what your risk profile is, and how much you want to get involved in all sorts of things, from um, making decisions financial, understanding areas, properties, strategies. I mean, it sounds like a lot. It's quite overwhelming, and it was for me. But uh, the only advice I can give is slow down, take it a lot slower than you think, um, and just clear your first property. Is what I would say. I was kind of lucky. I did my first property pretty much straight away, and it was just a very straight up vanilla purchase of a buy to let, no refurb, no nothing. So I was quite lucky in that sense. Um, the other point I want to bring in here, and something that I did, and Joanna reminded me of this just before the call, is when I talk about your why, for me, it's my family. So my whole why is I've built a portfolio, and hopefully we can get to 15 or 20 within the next year. Um, it's not for me. I have a job. I don't need the money that I get from this business. But at some point in the future, I will move all of that into a trust. We will life insurance into that trust. And my family, my kids, my wife will be members of that trust. So for me, it's legacy, and that's what's important to me. So yes, at some point I can live off the rentals in the future. Great, no problem with that. But really, it's about the legacy. So it's about the equity increase in these, the capital increase in these, the value of these properties over time. You know, we're talking 20 years. Me being able to pass that on to my kids and for them to have a different life. Um, you know, I'm a single child. I didn't have brothers or sisters. I moved to London from Manchester when I was 12. I was very much a loner. So my three children, everything I wanted for them was completely different to what I had experienced in life. So that's my why, and it's really important that you understand what your why is. And the point I'm making here is when I first had the conversation with my family, I sat them down and told them that I was selling their family home and I was moving out of their beautiful brand new home that had been built. It didn't go down very well, honestly. Um, and you know, I had to really give everyone space and step back and explain the reasons why. Um, and now, only a year or so on, we all look back now and we're all sort of laughing and joking about it. But the point is, you need to take your family or the people closest to you with you on the journey. You can't do this on your own. So I couldn't do this without my wife. She's a nurse. She sits next to me in my office here. And we talk about property every day. I get her involved. She does all the property management, and I love that. And it's important that whoever's your next and best thing closest to you, whether it's your family or your wife or your spouse or whatever, you must do it with them because you'll alienate them really if you don't, and it will just create a divide, and it almost this kind of whole property transformation has kind of created a new Craig almost in a way, and you have to be like that because you have to think differently because you're doing all sorts of tasks and activities that you haven't really normally done for most of your life. Talking to new people, presenting yourself, um, you know, articulating deals, closing deals. There's a whole book full of things that you need to do that you've never done before. So you almost have to become a new person. So the takeaway really here is no matter how difficult your situation is, there is definitely a way out. And everyone's situation is 100% going to be completely different. So just because you can't think of how to do it doesn't mean the person next to you on the bus wouldn't know how to do it. So I'd encourage you to talk and network hard to let people help and understand what you want to do and how you can sort of formalize that into a plan and a strategy that delivers on the outcomes that you want with your nearest and dearest going along that journey with you. So that's that one. Joanna, I don't know if there's any questions along the way. I don't know whether you normally sort of say ask them or wait to the end. So you tell me.
Normally people have popped them in the chat. There's nothing at the moment, so I think you carry
Okay.
on, and then we'll come back to Q&A at the end.
Yeah, no worries. All right, I've done enough rambling. I just wanted to set the scene in terms of where I've come from. I don't think I could really articulate how grey I went over that period of time, but I think I've recovered most of it. It's gone sort of mousy blonde again now, so that's all right. But um, it's important because, like I said, if there's people on the call that are or have experienced hardships, but they're really passionate about property, then you can make it work. As long as you've got a why and you're really passionate, then there's absolutely no reason why you won't be able to make it work. But the point I wanted to point I wanted to get to on this slide really just some of the learnings, but the struggle is the learning. Like honestly, um, it all looks great on PowerPoint decks and Canva decks like this, where we talk about the return on investment and this property, that property. But what you don't see on the pretty pictures is all of the conversations and the knockbacks, the mortgage lender knockbacks, the credit rating knockbacks, the offer knockbacks, you know, um, the lender feedback. There's loads of stuff that isn't there, but it's all part of the process. And most of that I've gone through for the first time this year with lenders and whatnot. It's been a real eye opener and an experience in terms of what it is they're actually looking for. Attached to that, my situation, again, slightly radical, probably different to everybody else's. What I struggled with was the overwhelming sense of decisions that I needed to make every day whilst doing a full-time job. Um, that really sort of hit me hard in terms of literally just making a decision one way or the other, which lender, what rate, um, you know, providing copious amounts of documentation to back up and to verify and prove who you are, statements, blah, 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 blah. It just goes on and on and on. So there are systems and processes in a way that you can make all that a lot easier. But yeah, definitely felt completely overwhelmed this last year with building decisions, structural, architectural, location, rates, mortgage provider, even which broker to use, for Christ's sake, as part of my team. Um, and the other sort of slightly different situation that I found myself in is once I'd sold my property and moved into the rented property, I was deposited with pretty much, quite a lot of money. And weirdly, it that I felt more pressure than not having money, if that makes sense. Once the money was in the bank, there was then a ticking time bomb of kind of, right, you need to do something quite clever now. And that was a different type of pressure that I wasn't used to. So I kind of understand how the bankers work now and the pressure that they're under, thinking Nick Leeson and all that. Because yeah, there was definitely a pressure to spend it wisely if there's such a thing. Um, but are you getting a good deal? Is this the correct investment versus that one? Because you kind of going through this on your own. Luckily, I had my wife with me. Someone to bounce all of these ideas off, and obviously a mentor to bounce all these ideas off. So it's just something to think about. The other thing that I've probably done this
Sorry,
year.
your video's paused again, mate.
Oh, okay. I probably say it's because my poor. I told I told you I had to get this laptop
Yeah.
rebooted
Oh, is
Apple.
this the
So it's,
poorly one? Yeah.
oh, this is the poorly one. Yeah, I mean I'm due a new one. Bless her. Um,
Be back.
yeah. The other thing I've probably done because of my situation is you could argue that I've rushed a little bit, but there really isn't any need to rush. And again, depending on the situation, maybe there is a bit of a need to get a wiggle on, but there is no need to rush. And I'm not saying I've rushed this year, but I've created that environment for myself because the way things worked out this year, because of the way that we'd picked up these properties, the idea was to do one at a time, of course. But when they get presented to you in such a way, it you either got to take it or leave it. And because of my risk profile, I took it and I went with it. And that's ended up that we've kind of ended up with a sort of a purchase and a refinance situation all at the same time for pretty much most of the portfolio. So um, plus I was desperate to get going because I'd kind of sat sort of idle for a year doing all my training, education and talking. I felt like I was absolutely ready to get going. But the point I want to make here is your speed of transition is relative to your plan. Okay. So depending on your profile, you might want to do it in 3 years or 1 year or 5 years. You really got to understand. Again, it comes back to the first slide about your plan because once, and the plan can be absolutely bonkers, by the way. And I encourage you to make a bonkers plan because you will get close to it. And alternatively, you may have made a really, really simple plan, and you will achieve it. So it depends depends which way you look at it. But for me, now knowing what I know, and it's easy for me because I have a job and I have income, so that's fine. So the pressure for me is off. It wasn't always that way because I was unemployed for a good 4 months. So now I'm employed, the pressure is off, and I have a salary, and that's fine. So we slow down a little bit now as we move into phase two, but not too much. Um, and the other thing that I really struggled with But again, when I say struggle, it's a learning curve. So we call it struggle, but it's a learning curve for everybody to soak up all of the difficult times. And someone said something, I don't know, it was on one of these calls, but I heard it, you know, pressure. I work in sales, and for me, pressure is almost a gratitude to me now, and I have to think of it that way. So when I'm under pressure and when we've got decisions to make, I take it as a, you know, as a gratitude kind of point. I don't think of it in a negative way. I have to think of it as a positive way. Otherwise, it will consume you. But balancing work and life and property has been really, really difficult this year. And on one of the later slides, I've got like successes. I haven't put that on there, but there's probably loads of successes when you look back. But I've kind of summarized them. So, but being able to balance work, life, and being present for everybody else as well, that's been a struggle. And I think I've done very well. I've tried to do very well anyway. Okay, so I was just going to show you a few things. God, my mouse goes idle after a while. So I think here what I was talking about is back to the plan, and I probably already covered it, but at some point, oh yeah, I know what I was going to talk about. Again, I'm not working off notes here, guys. What I wanted to share with you here is, and each slide I'll talk about the plan somewhere, but eventually, even for me, 350, 400 grand, wherever it was, the money will run out, and the money runs out. So there was definitely a lag, and there always will be a lag between waiting for solicitors, builders, properties, opportunities, whatever. There'll always be a lag. So you can't. My experience is you can't have that. You have to be every day working on your plan, your opportunities, your learning, your education. Everything has to move forward every day, even if it's only an inch. And I'm not ashamed to say that whilst I'd spent my money, um, I kind of regressed a little bit, but that's only because I started a new job in June, and it was perfect timing, really, for me to focus on that job, because the way it works in my job is you generally have a probation period, and you need to clear that probation period. So I've cleared the probation period, no problem. But that was only because I put 150% into that job that I managed to clear that. But really, here, what I'm saying is momentum's key. So keep moving forward, keep talking to lots of people, always be working on um, on your plan. Um, so just some some successes and some lessons, really. I feel like I've talked about plan loads, but it really is like the footprint and the baseline of everything that you do moving forward. Um, but obviously the why is really important. It's taken me a while, and it's revised over a number of quarters or months, but I definitely really understand my why. So I understand myself now, uh, and it sounds a bit hippie, but you kind of almost need to understand yourself, really, what you're capable of and what's acceptable to you, and how you want to operate you as a person. Um, so part of that is a plan, and that's kind of like a guide rope for you to be able to stay close to that. And yeah, that's like mega important. Um, I was lucky. Was able to network relentlessly. I'm part of a couple of other clubs. So I'm big on wealth creation. So I'm part of Wealth Builders, which is, if anyone knows that. I'm also part of Founders, which is it's a sort of high net worth sort of entrepreneurial club. And that's purely for the networking side of things. There's all sorts of people in these clubs. There's all sorts of investors, by the way, in these sorts of groups. Um, I say choose your team wisely. Again, if everybody's just starting out or people have already got going, that's going to sound quite obvious. But um, again, because of my situation, I was lucky enough to take the time to go and see work, meet people, understand what areas they'd worked in, what work they'd done visually, go and look at it. And the one-to-one meeting and kind of shaking someone's hand is a real good way of looking someone in the eye and making sure that you're on a level, you've got the same values and opinions and beliefs, and that they understand you and what your plan is and where you want to go. So from brokers, from brokers to solicitors to sources, I use the same people for all of my projects. Not forever, because there's plans next year to change one of those, to take that in house. But yeah, knowing your team and meeting with them and treating them, like a partner is really, really important. Taking action, taking action doesn't just mean investing in property. Taking action means doing your education. Taking action means I have two whiteboards here. You can't see them, but they've got all my goals on, my daily goals, my sort of business goals, sort of yearly goals. I have Asana as an app that I create all my tasks for me and my wife, paying bills, booking viewings. You know, it's just an easy way to distribute tasks, project management tasks out to the wider world. And that's just as important as buying property. So all the little things means taking action, and obviously education is key. As I mentioned before, I spent a good month reading this book because it's not for the faint-hearted. It's called SAS Pensions. You're probably all aware of what SAS pension is. And one of my sort of successes this year is getting my pensions transferred across into my company pension. I don't sound really proud of it, but it's been quite difficult. I'm not going to lie. Pension providers don't want to release your funds from their fund. They want to keep hold of it for as long as they can, and they'll make it very difficult for you to transfer it. That's just my experience anyway. Yours might be different. I transferred pretty much 6 pensions that I've accrued over the 30 years of working into my company, Treadstone sponsored company pension. And that pension I will loan back into Treadstone down to Windfall to invest in residential property. And we will buy, refurbish, refinance, and then I will pay that pension back over time. And I actually learned a little trick about this last week. I was on a call with Kevin Whelan, and what you can actually do is when you borrow money from pension. So I've got pretty much, let's just say, I can borrow up to 125k from my pension. You can borrow up to 50% of the pension fund value, and you can invest it in your business to go and invest in anything, primarily property, commercial property. And you can take a 1, 3, or a 5 year term. So you're paying yourself back over 1, 3, or 5 years. If you take it over 5 years, effectively you can recycle that amount of cash as many times as you can in 5 years. And at the end of 5 years, or the end of each year, pay a fifth of that pension back. So you can work out the dynamics of that, how that works. So if you bought somewhere for, if we spent, per property, we spent 50k on a property and refinanced, we could put some of that refinance money away in the coffin for the end of the year and pay the pensions a fifth of it back each year. But we keep recycling the whole pot every time we go. So rather than take it out over 1 year and then repay the pension and then reapply to the trustees to loan the money back. So that's a cool little trick that I'm going to deploy. So yeah, 7 properties in 7 months, all a little bit crazy. Things that I wasn't expecting, like I bought a block of 4 flats on a single title for 400,000. Because of the conversations and the network that I had, I managed to find a broker that actually lent me the full purchase price, because they loaned on a mixture of the GDV and the purchase price, which was fantastic. So they ended up lending me £405,000, and the GDV on that is 680. So I pull out 510, I pay back 425 or 430, 428, something like that with my interest. I keep the difference, and I've got 4 flats, which we've split the titles on completion. I'd never expected to do that deal. It was just my network, someone that I've been talking to for pretty much a year and a half, brought that deal to me and said, this is an amazing deal. It's right on her doorstep. She's got many deals like that. She had about 9 of these on the go at the moment, so she couldn't take that one on, so she gave it to me. So yeah, so that whole bit about networking, it's like you need to network without the intention of getting something for free, but if you do that well, eventually, full circle, that person will come back to you and think of you and come back to you and talk to you and present something to you that's really, 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 really good. We've done 2 redevelopments this year, back to brick, one in Crewe, and one, I'll show you, one in Crewe, one in Leeds. Again, the learning curve was steep. Building teams, project management, um, inordinate amount of problems and bills, but all handled perfectly. Obviously, set up the SaaS and the loan back. Um, I I've invested in the business into a virtual assistant. So I have a lady called Louise uh, over in the Philippines, and Louise runs all my social media and all my this deck. She did this deck for me yesterday. Um, we did it last week, but she tidied it up. She does all my social media. She does all of our outbound approaching, and she does all my business work as well for the company that I work for. So she does all my social media profile, my LinkedIn, and everything. So she's brilliant, and for the price, yeah, you know, I've really grown to rely on her. So that's a good investment, I think. Yeah, and I feel like I've got a really strong power team behind me that are all coming to me and asking me for the next job, you know, that type of thing. So it's been a really good year. Um, Now, so just a sort of FYI. So this is how the company's structured. What I haven't told you, oh, I did tell you, I've got rent. Yeah, so we control three properties in Flipworks. Um, we rent to rent these. These are passive rent to rents. So I don't even manage these. These are managed by a management company. They send me the statements each month. I have a platform that I view all the bookings on, kind of figure out how we're doing. And honestly, these are about 80% full most of the year. So it's kind of okay. Um, and over in the right is Windfall, and there's only four properties here you see, but Connaught is four flats that we title split, so that's actually seven. But we obviously control three others over here, so you could call it 10, but I kind of keep them out of the loop really. I just say seven, but there's three there that we control, and we're about a year into those. We make about anywhere between £400 to £800 a month on each one of those. Treadstone is the holding company, and the reason I'm telling you this is because you might get some ideas about doing this yourself. Is Treadstone is a holding company, but also the property management company for the Crescent. Um, and my SaaS is attached to Treadstone. So if you think about it, if we add up Flipworks and if we add up Windfall Estates, once we've got everything fully tenanted, because we're just getting tenants in at the moment to the Crescent and Frank Webb, next year we will probably be taking, let's just call it 6 grand a month at the moment across the whole lot. So what's that, 72 grand a year. The idea is that we will either pay ourselves out of the company's small salary, we'll utilize Tracy's gap between 30 and 50k, pay less tax, and we will make a contribution to the SaaS from either of these to mitigate any corporation tax. So what it's going to look like if you go and look at Companies House, although we've only just submitted our accounts for year ending February this year, what it will look like is, you know, we're making a loss, but we're not making a loss. We are putting that money into our SaaS. We then loan back from the SaaS via an application, and then we invest that money into property, and the portfolio builds. And then each year we pay the SaaS back what we owe it. It's my pension, so I pay my pension back what we owe it, 1% above Bank of England base rate. I could do 5% above Bank of England base rate if I wanted to, but yeah, for simple terms, we just say 1% above Bank of England base rate. So that's the structure of the business. I had other plans of buying other online businesses and stuff like that, but that's 2027 or something like that, probably. So it's pretty straightforward. But all of this came out of all of that thinking and reading that I did at the very start and the plan. So it's important that you get that straight before you start, because otherwise everything becomes a surprise. You don't want that. Just to give you a flavour of uh, um, the Crescent, it's just a really bog standard 3 bedrooms, quite a big house actually, in Leeds, fully renovated. It was an absolute shit show when I got there, and it's been really nicely, carefully renovated. Nothing, nothing over the top. I think we spent something like 36 or 38,000 on it, but I mean everything's brand new. All the rooms completely stripped back and redecorated, new kitchen, bathrooms, everything. Um, so we bought this for 125 with all of the development costs and the legals. We spent 48. The GDV is 220. So we'll pull out 165. So we're going to leave about 8 grand in that, but that one rents for about 1200. So we make about 14 grand a year on that. So um, yeah, so we'll have our money back within the year on that one. So that's good. That's just one of them. Here's the other ones. Um, the Crescent you can see there. Just put the worst picture ever. Louise put the worst picture in here. But anyway, um, that's Project Frank Webb. I haven't got the afters yet. Beckhill, that's my first property. That was the vanilla one that we just purchased straight up. That's my block of flats down in Kent. Lovely. And these is the sort of design that we have in our essays. We have the same furniture, the same patterns, the same linen, the same everything in all of the essays. We've got 3 of those. So that's just a flavour of that. What's happening next year? So yeah, just to give you an idea, just think back now to when I was talking to you about a year or so ago when I was in a corner up against the wall. I had debts through my eyeballs. I'd missed 3 or 4 mortgage payments, and my file has been knackered. Um, I couldn't really see a way out. I then got made redundant. I then lost my house sale. It seems pretty desperate, doesn't it? And now I'm talking to you about next year, which is in a month's time, pretty much. I'm looking at utilizing my SAS for a couple of more projects. Um, we're refinance all of the units. There's a really conservative amount on the refinance. We think we could do 3 properties easy. I didn't put on my successes that I spent this year, um, and it's reminded me. If I've got time, I'll tell you. But I got an investor on board this year as well, so that was one of my other successes. Um, and it wasn't very difficult. And I would urge you to, when you are thinking of your plan, depending on your situation, if you haven't got anything to start with, you really need to add investors into your thinking. So once you have a plan and you can articulate it and you understand it and you're passionate about it, if you can then create a um, a deck that shows how an investor can make money, there are hundreds of investors sat all around you at all times. I started really closely in my close circle. I'm very lucky. But I've since stretched out further out of that circle, and I've got a couple of new investors interested. They are wanting to see all my pitch decks on exit, which we're only a few weeks away. And I think I can get them on board. But anyway, for the moment, my one investor, I give them 10%. So for each property that we renovate or that we purchase and we use their cash to do that, they make 5 grand. And we think together we could do 3 in a 12-month period. So I think we could do 2 more. I've just offered on another property actually. So I think we could do 2 more before next June. They'll make £15,000. Whereas if that money had been in a bank, they wouldn't have made £15,000. That money's going to put his son through university. And he's over the moon with that. And at the end, he gets his 50 grand back. So yeah, he's really happy. So this is next year. We want to launch the website. We want to talk about our services and our deal sourcing and our coaching. And the coaching is important to me. And I haven't figured it all out yet, but I will. I will get to grips with it over Christmas when there's a bit of a downtime with work and with everything else. And I really want to structure something that really helps people get out of a position similar to mine. But not only that, I think understand what kind of plan they need to make and how they can enact on it and take action. So yeah, so that's it. So that's next year. Don't think there's anything else. No, I think that's it. I think that's the end, Joanna.
We got that. Awesome. Thank you,
I,
Craig. That
I,
was.
I've missed loads out as well, but don't worry about it.
Don't worry. If there's anything that comes to mind afterwards, we can always add it in. So, if you wouldn't mind just stopping sharing for a second.
Yeah.
I'm just going to quickly share my slide deck. So, as you guys know, we always talk about marketing. And for these, so let me just present mode. Okay. So we've got two strategies to talk about tonight because actually what Craig has been doing is BRR and rent to SA. And actually one of them is done a BRR into an SA. So we came up with a new term of BRRSA earlier. I was like, that's a bit of a mouthful to say that after a glass of wine. So let's just talk about if you are going to be doing BRR. So some of the things that are really important for you. So this is, as Craig was just talking there, this is about building your network. It's about building your professionalism. So this isn't just, about having lots of money and going off and doing it yourself. As Craig said, you are going to run out of cash at some point. So from the very beginning, you really need to be networking and building that network around you of people that you're taking on that journey with you and being consistent in what you are saying. So, Craig was very right there, about having your property why. I think you've got your why about why you want to uh, obviously have another income stream, preferably through property. But I think you need to have a property why as well. So, what is it about property that really gets you excited? Is it about taking something nasty and making it beautiful? Is it about creating unique SA spaces for people's holidays? What is it about property that gets you excited? Because this is what's going to draw people into your story and make you memorable over everybody else is going, I just want to find a good deal and make some money. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of those people out there. What is going to make you stand out from the crowd and make someone remember you? So, being able to present yourself really professionally, really eloquently when you're going along to networking sessions is really important. So, the good old quality business card, even in this digital age, having a physical printed business card that you can hand over to someone that they find in their pocket, their handbag, whatever, the next day is really, really important at keeping you front of mind. And please make sure it's a good quality one. I've seen some really nasty ones recently. You're looking to make people and yourself a lot of money, so spend a little bit of cash on some nice business cards, please. Your elevator pitch. This is about how you present. So when someone says, "So what do you do?" The worst thing that you can say is, "Well, I'm quite new," because then that person literally will start to withdraw away from you and think, "Oh, you're just going to be after trying to find some information out from me." So, how do you put across what it is that you are passionate about and what that you're trying to do? And ask that person, ask people for support, so advice, whatever it is that you're looking for out of that networking session and saying it eloquently. So, this is about building it, writing it down, practicing it, making sure it comes out in a natural speak to yourself. Don't try and be someone funny, or if you're not, or quirky or whatever, just be natural. People see through acting really, really quickly, unless you're a very good actor. So be authentic. As Craig said, when you've got some case studies, get them up on a website, get them into an investor pack, so that when somebody says, hey, share with me some of the projects that you've been doing, that's already there to go. If you haven't gotten started yet, doesn't mean you can't have those. So your website, your investor pack can really be talking about what your passion is, what tangible skills, what training, what skills that you've brought over from maybe your day job or any other things that you've been doing. What are you doing from an education perspective? All of that can be incorporated on there to make people think, yes, you are the right person for me to want to talk to. And the investor pack is really to talk someone through, what's the process? How does it work with you? This isn't just about, sharing a deal. This is about showing yourself as a professional. From mine, and I'm sure the same in Craig's business, when we go to talk to people about our company, we'll often ask to send over our credentials deck. And this is, who we are, what we do, what we stand for, how we work, how we deal with our customers, all of that kind of thing. So that can be a really nice thing to follow up with someone after a networking event. And then that organic social media, I've talked about this before. If you haven't watched it already, please go on to Happy Friday / property talks and look at my social media 101 training. Talked about the different types of organic social media. And this is really about you building that shop front to prove that you are in property and active on a regular basis. Doesn't need, to be posting every day, but every week, I went to this viewing, I've been to this networking, I saw this house. Even one viewing can become 10 different posts. You just have to cut it up differently. But that's just showing people that you are active in property. You're not just talking the talk, you're actually walking the walk. And then for those of you that want to get into SA, let's just start on the right side here. So if you want to get into rent to rent SA, again, it's about how you present yourself. So that elevator, or sort of business cards and elevator pictures. Elevator pictures can be used as well when you're calling estate agents or you're approaching a landlord directly through open rent or anything like that. So it doesn't have to be spoken word, it can be written word as well. Your landlord pack, so what I've just said for investors, exactly the same for landlords. How are you going to look after their property? How are you going to make sure that you've got tenants in? How are you going to guarantee their rent every month? And then again, social media organic, just to show you're sharing knowledge, you're showing that through your organic socials that you actually know what it is that you're talking about. And then when you've got an SA, if you don't want to put it to a fully managed solution like Craig has, and you actually want to try and get some bookings yourself, obviously you can use Airbnb, booking.com, any of the hotel or holiday rental companies. But if you're trying to get direct bookings to mitigate that 15%, then, having obviously a really good website or just a simple landing page with your property on it. Let people, sign up for your email newsletters that are talking about all the great things that are going on in the location that your SA is. And then social media paid can be used to obviously target people that are looking up for things to do in that particular area. May even, if you have the money to run to it, to maybe even Google Ads as well. So, but that's really about driving that direct traffic. So obviously Joanna, run a company called Happy Friday Marketing. So I'm here to help you with all your marketing strategy and design needs. I have two services for you. So we have the Done For You, that's the traditional marketing agency. You tell me what you want, or we work through that together. I go off and do it, send it to you for approval. We go backwards and forwards until it's done. Or we have the Done With You, lots of you playing around with AI design tools, web builders, they're relatively easy. You've got the ChatGPT, LLM type things that are helping you with the copy. But it can be sort of get to that point where you're kind of like, is this the right thing? ChatGPT said it was right. Is it right? Does it sound like me? All those kinds of things. So that's where my Done With You service comes in, where you can send me what it is that you're working on. I review it. We have a bit of a backwards and forwards conversation about how do we perfect that. So you're really launching whatever it is that you're working on with confidence. And if you do want to have a chat, feel free to book yourself in for a free 30-minute chat with me. That QR code takes you to my website, to my Calendly link, where you can just book yourself straight into my diary. And we can just have a chat about whatever it is that you're struggling with marketing wise. Cool, right. So let's talk Q&A. So just stop sharing again. There was one question I noticed popped into the chat earlier from, where was it? Where, Corinne, your question's gone, or has it been answered? Is that why it's done?
Is Corinne on? Does she want to come on? And I mean, I've answered it, but it'd be good
you've
to talk
answered
to
it,
Corinne.
yeah. So Corinne, did you want to have a chat and talk about Craig's answer?
Hi, hello. Okay.
Hi, Corinne.
Hello, hi. Yeah, I was just interested to know. I mean, very inspiring story, by the way.
Thank you.
I was just curious to know again if you sort of were to do it again today with maybe not selling your house, just a
Yeah.
modest, a budget type thing. Would you look
Yeah.
at SA? Or I think you've answered some of the questions, sort of bridging, and you've said some other ideas, but that's it really. I just thought, what would be
Yeah, no,
your
it's a
take
really
on
good
that?
question. It's probably the one question that everybody asks, right?
Yeah,
I think you know I think probably 95% of the nation is fed up at the moment and are desperately looking for ways to exit the grind. Okay, so as strong as that feeling is, you can't let it get in the way of what's possible and what's really not possible. So, for example, the quickest way I'd say to you is really learn your craft and understand how to deal source. And but it's irrelevant if you don't talking to people, you're no good on computers. You just see what I mean? So that's a no straight away. So you have to really think about you and what you want to do and what your end game is. So if you are good at talking to people and you come across really well and you're a clever bunny and you pick up things really quickly educationally, there's absolutely no reason why you can't go and do the modules. I mean, even ChatGPT and Google, for Christ's sake, will teach you how to understand the mechanics of deal sourcing. Um, and that's why it's part of my plan for next year, because I see that as a way of us earning additional revenue and be able to use the network that I've built up to be able to help people come through and then offer, be able to provide a service where we can get them some really good opportunities. So again, think about the sort of 3-year plan, think about the 1-year plan. And sometimes you won't know until you know, like you won't know that, you won't know that you're no good at some of these things until you throw yourself at it and see if it sticks. I get that. But if you were really sort of stuck for cash and you were kind of working out, how do I get into property, but I don't, rent to rent's great. I would say, to me, it feels quite saturated. And rent to rent from when I started a year ago has completely changed now. So rent to rent was primarily, couples going away at weekends. Now it's contractors staying for 3 months at a time. So that's a different market altogether. So, but you might have a network into corporate called CTAs, corporate travel agents, where they're not hard to find. You can offer out properties of portfolios. You can do it either way. You can either go direct to the CTAs and get the need first, and then go to the landlords and get those deals secured, or you can do the other way and go to the landlords and then go to the CTAs. That's definitely something that I would focus on. It's a really quick way of trying to grow and leverage your business quite quickly. And then before you know it, you've got a build up of capital, and you can go and invest that in your own sort of portfolio for investment. But again, I just come back to that to that deal I did in Kent. The bridging company lent me all of the money. I only paid for solicitors' fees, and they were expensive, but that's all I paid for in that deal was solicitor fees. So, I bought nearly a 700 grand block for 12 grand. So again, it's not just, you don't have to sort of dig a great big hole to get somewhere. I was only fortunate enough to come across that deal because I spent a year talking to someone without asking for anything. And that, I just kind of, it looked favorably on me on the way back. So I'm rambling on, but you get my drift. It really depends on you and what you want to devote your time to. If you're really interested and passionate about studying properties and talking to agents and landlords and finding good opportunities, and you've got a bit of a march on some CTAs and corporate travel agents where you think there's an opportunity. So, for example, right now in Crewe, there's a lot of development going on in Crewe. There's a lot of industrial development, redevelopment going on. There's a lot of contractors flooding to the area. You start to pick, if you're interested in things like that and you pick up on all of this stuff, you can very quickly sort of short navigate into the need, the requirement, and then you can build a business in a month or two back off the back of that. So yeah, that's where I would start. Of course, my situation is slightly different, but we've got plans to grow our RSA business for the corporate travel agent market. So definitely focus there.
Thank you. That's really helpful. And I will book a call in. I've just saw the message in the chat. So
yeah, please. Yeah.
If anybody's really struggling with what strategy to do, please feel free, just book in a quick half an hour with me. We can have a chat about some of your options and just get a little bit more in detail about your particular personal circumstances. Craig, your video's paused again, mate. I don't know how to pronounce that name. Craig, did you say a CTA for R2R I'm not sure that makes sense. Whoever put that question in, did you want to unmute and ask that question?
Hello, Joanne, it's me.
Hello.
Hi, you're right.
Yeah, good love.
Yeah, it's Kelechi. Why?
Oh,
Every
Kelechi,
time I
that was
log
it.
in,
Sorry, love. Yeah, it's the
yes,
C that gets
Kelechi.
me every time.
I know.
Sorry. So what do you mean by CTA for rent to rent?
I think I wasn't. That's why I asked, because Craig was talking about rent to rent, saying that you can either go to the landlord first, or I think he mentioned it. Is it CTA or do that first, or you can do vice versa. So I wasn't too sure on that when he was talking about rent.
So the idea is like it's the same in it's the same with deal sourcing. So you either find the deal first or you find the investor first. There's two ways of doing it. You can go and get an investor and get them interested and get them to commit, or you can go and find a deal and take it to a bunch of investors and try and get them to commit. So it's the same with rent to rent SA. You can either go and find the landlord and get a really good unit in a really good area that's got loads of um, contractors requiring long-term stays, or you can go straight to the corporate travel agent that books all of those for direct. You can go direct to, let me just think. Sorry, one sec. Kia, yeah, Kia Construction, right? So they've got people all over the country building new houses. They've got a big demand to put people in these homes. So the ones we've got like a 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom home in Salford, driveway, big garden, beautiful. They'll stick 4 people in there, and they'll pay 150 quid a night. Whereas they put them in a hotel, paying 400 quid. So they save a lot of money. So you can either go direct to the end user, i.e. the CTA or the company directly, or you can go direct to the landlord and get the properties first. There's 2 ways of doing it.
All right. Is it a CTA?
Yeah, I think it's corporate travel agent. So for me, I was kind of like, it's a call to action. It's like the use of the term CTA comes up different. So yeah, go to corporate travel agent. I think there's lots of cozy stays and things like that
Correct
use as well and things like that. So
correct.
If you're wanting any of that, Kachi, definitely the rent to rent group is definitely going to be your source for support and all of that kind of stuff if you want people to particularly advise you and stuff. I mean, if you're talking to, sort of Chris and Sen, the Touchstone mentors, they are passionate about making sure that you've picked the demand first rather than finding the property. But, it's there's no harm in finding a deal but not signing up to it and then looking for the demand. But just make sure the demand is there before you sign on it. I think we all get a bit excited. I did recently, a landlord potentially, open to rent. You're like, oh my God, someone said yes. And then I kind of looked at, the demand of rooms versus rooms available versus rooms wanted in Coventry. And I was just kind of like, the numbers just don't stack. When you've got 100 people looking and 400 rooms available, it's just kind of like it's way too big a risk with a 5-bed empty property. You have to you just have to weigh up the opportunity versus the landlord saying, yeah, I'm open to rent. They're open to rent potentially because they can't make it work themselves, and they're looking at to try and get somebody else to give them guaranteed rent. Sorry, I think some fireworks are going off, so the dogs are barking. But not this little one. She's being great. This is little Lottie. I was trying to introduce you to the dogs I'm looking after. She's one of our faves. So any other questions, guys? So you're pressing buttons? You all right?
So there's a question there from Ramola. Can you use your SAS pension for BRR of residential properties or only to buy commercial properties? So here's the thing. So the SAS can loan, it can do what's called a loan back. So the SAS itself can only purchase commercial property. So if we wanted to buy a shop, which I do, if we wanted to buy a shop, we would use a SAS to purchase that, and the SAS would own that commercial entity, no problem. So the shop is the pension, great. But what the other vehicle that the SaaS has, which is why I've moved all the money in the first place, it can do commercial purchase, but it can also do what's called a loan back. So it's a company loan back. So it can loan back to the attached company. So in my instance, that's Touchstone. It can loan back up to 50% of the fund value. So in that sense, it would loan me 125k, and I would it has to property has to be unencumbered. Okay, so the SaaS has to have first charge on that property. So in that sense, we would have enough money to purchase an unencumbered property and redevelop it. So if I borrowed 125,000, and just like Frank Webb, I'll give you the numbers on that. So I purchased Frank Webb for 70,000. I spent 45 on it or something like that, and we'll get that refinanced or revalued at 160. Yeah, so we'll pull 127 out. So we could do that with the SaaS. So I loan to my company 125. I buy another Frank Webb. We spend 30, 35 on it, and we get it refinanced. And then when I get it refinanced, I put a portion of what that yearly number is that I need to pay back. I put that aside in one of my side bank accounts, and I leave that there. And whatever's left over, I hustle that back up and put that back in the pot and go and buy the next one. And I'll do that as many times as I can in 5 years. I mean, I could do a really risky strategy, which is not put the money aside, but that'd be stupid. So we put some money aside for that first year or a portion of it. And then we reinvest that money and go and buy the next one. So the SaaS is it's got its own lane, if you like, and it will purchase its own properties over the period of time, which the company will own. And then all we've got to do is just pay back the SaaS each year. And at the end of 5 years, we've paid back all of the SaaS, all of the interest. My SaaS has grown, my pension pot has grown by 5%. But more importantly, my company asset portfolio has grown by 2 properties a year over 5 years. That's 10 properties that my SaaS can purchase for me. So, and at that point, when I've lent all the money back, or in between, whatever, we'll look to buy, we'll diversify, and we'll buy some commercial property as well. And then we've got a bit of a mixed portfolio of things. Hopefully that's helpful.
If anyone's interested in SIPSAS journey, as Craig said, it's not the simplest thing to get set up. The lovely Pierre did a talk a couple of weeks back all about the process of setting that up, so you can access that chat on my website. And Sue, be very patient with your hand up, my love.
Hello. Your dream is pretty much, or my dream, sorry, is pretty much a mini version of I've forgotten his name, isn't that awful?
Craig.
Craig, from what Craig has done. So I'm currently selling my property, hopefully, fingers crossed, we won't go into that. And I'll be releasing all my equity and going into rented, the same as what you did.
Great.
I'm just wondering, because my pot's going to be a lot smaller than what yours was. I'm just wondering, is it best to do a cash sale or cash purchase and then refinance, or split it and do deposits and top it up with mortgages or whatever?
Yeah, really good question. And again, come back to your attitude to risk, because I don't mind telling you, like, even though I had all the cash, I still bridged my purchases. Okay, so
Right.
apart from the very, very first one, which I bought with all cash, probably a dumb move. The rest of them I bridged. So I bridged the purchase, the deposit I paid, and the rest I bridged. And then we pay all the bridging off when we refinance next week, which is great because we've got all the dips and everything stacks up. So it's brilliant. So to answer your question, again, bridging is not for the faint-hearted.
No, it's so
because
ghastly, to be honest.
naturally as humans we get a bit scared and we get a bit fearful of what if, right? But I would just challenge you to think, well, what if it all works out? Because it probably will do. So it depends. If your sort of 3-year plan is a little
Yeah, I've
more
got a few
subtle,
years on you as well. So.
yeah. Well, that's the other thing. So this is the other question you got to ask, isn't it? You know, how quickly do you want to get to
Yeah,
your end
yeah.
goal? You know, if you want,
That is out of the question for me because it's not going to work. Realised that from another webinar.
yeah.
Um,
Have you got connections into brokers and things like that?
not
Have you?
yet, no.
So it
I
might be
think
worth.
speak to DNA, but apart from that, not really.
Oof. Um. So yeah, what I would do is explore, and I'm quite happy to put you in touch with a really lovely lady. But you should just explore what the art of the possible is either way. If you went that way or if you went that way, what's the impact of your total cash remaining if you did either way?
Mm.
Because it also depends on what you end up purchasing, of course. Whether it's just a turnkey, boom, in and out. Got a
Mm.
property, got it tenanted, in and out, no problem. Tenants in situ. It depends on lots of moving parts.
Yeah.
So, but definitely, what helped me was when I sort of started to analyze a deal, look at a deal, and then I get the broker involved, and then we look at it and we talk about it, and then we map it out, and then we look at sort of scenario A, scenario B. Scenario A is going to cost you this, scenario B is going to cost you that. But actually, do you need the money to invest in another property? So maybe scenario B with bridging is better. You know, you might pay a few
Mm.
£1,000s extra, but you've still got access to the rest of your cash to use for something else. So again, you know, that's the scenario I
I'm
would.
not sure if I want to go in rented indefinitely. I was sort of thinking about a year or so,
Okay.
and then get my forever home really, and then
So
sort of have the other
so that's
property to sort of
I
as
got you.
cash
So the
flow, bit top up my pension
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. No, I mean, so were you looking to purchase something, do it up, and that be a forever home, and then refinance it?
Well, it depends what the home is. So my ever home is my dream, and it is a dream. um, yeah, so depending what I can find, but I'm happy to go into a flip and then sort of put it onto somewhere when I find the right place.
Right. So
But
your strategies is flip because you're not building a portfolio. You're doing it to create a capital
yeah, a
spike. Yeah.
couple of essays along the sides,
Yeah.
sort of pay for a few holidays and bits and pieces would be nice.
Yeah. Absolutely. A few trips to Benidorm. Absolutely.
I don't know about that.
Oh, I go every year. I don't mind. I don't mind telling you. Yeah. So I mean, like I
More than
say,
you can
that it's probably worth investing a half an hour to talk to someone. And I'm sure everybody's got people they would recommend. I could definitely recommend someone. A lovely lady
Great,
called
thank
Sarah.
you.
If you want a number, I'll happily pass you over to her. You can call her or WhatsApp her or whatever. You can, if you choose to, you choose to. I use her for pretty much most of my stuff. So yeah, happy to do that.
Yeah, that'd be
But
great if you could do that.
that'll just help you sort of visualize what the art of the possible is, what you could do, uh, and that then it
Yeah.
becomes a bit of a reality in your mind, and then you start to take steps to move towards it. Otherwise, it just sort of sit in the back of your mind.
Yeah. So what are you? Sorry, are you planning on staying in your rented for the foreseeable, or
Yeah. So
Greg?
so so what's really happened is I've kind of gone full circle. So um, I've gone sort of riches to poorest to riches to poorest. I've lived the life where I've had, supercars, lovely homes, great holidays, and I'm 48 now, and I'm sort of turning into a bit of a frugal frog. Um,
Mm.
and the next part of my life now is about being financially articulate and pretty much cutting all costs out of my life. So we're going to downsize our rented place that we live. Long term, so sort of within the next 2 years, we're going to purchase a couple of rental properties in the area that we live, and our kids are going to move into those. And then at some point in that same time frame, sort of year 3, we will buy a doer upper bungalow, something like that, and me and my wife will move into that, and that's how we'll exit out of the rental market. But we will make money out of that property that we purchase as well, because we'll get it below market value, we'll add value, and then we'll get it refinanced.
Yeah.
And at that point, hopefully, at the end of 3 years, that being maybe the very last project we do, hopefully we'll then be in a position where we can stop or exit and just live life. Because just live life at that point, because it's all personal to everybody, isn't it? But I lost my mum when she was very young, and she didn't get to experience any of her pension or anything. So we can't afford to do that. So that's the plan.
Indeed. I think so. It comes back to what Craig has said many, many, many times in his talk about having the plan. So, what is your plan? And I think that would be really good for you to have relatively articulately before you speak to your broker. Of, I would like to be in this location, because we know previous conversations where you want to be. The type of fund that I need to buy a property in that area is here. What I've got right now is here. What is my plan to get to enough money to be able to buy that, preferably outright or very small mortgage, I would imagine, as you're coming into retirement. What are the stepping stones? Even if it's, pure sort of pie in the sky at the moment, what are those stepping stones? Because then the broker is going to then be able to tell you, okay, that it's completely unrealistic. You're not going to be able to do that in 3 years. That's going to take 5-6 years or whatever, and then that will then start to set your expectations a little bit more. And you can then say,
I haven't got that long to sort of get there.
It's like, well,
on a smaller scale to get where I want to be.
If you then say, okay, no, six years is a deal breaker, you can then say, okay, well, what other opportunities? Like Craig was talking about his, openness to risk. It's like the not risky, but going maybe a little bit faster, or to some deals that aren't, I don't want to say unsafe, because no one should be taking those deals, but what I mean? It's kind of like doing something that taking a bridge on a much higher percentage rather than a mortgage can be seen as risky by a lot of people, but it might get you to your goal faster in the time frame, until you put that down on paper and then go, that is an unacceptable compromise for me of living in rented accommodation for 5 years. You're not really going to know. So that would be my recommendation. I'm guessing Craig as well, is talking about plans. Get that written down and then start talking it through with trusted advisors. And people will then give you their advice. If they say, or even just say to them, I've got this pot of cash, this is my target. How can you help me get there? And that's what that's how they earn their money. And especially like the guys at DNA, they love having those conversations. So definitely try and get some time with Jamie and sit down and have that chat. And fill up pipeline is very good as well. So you've got my property spreadsheet, right? So they're all on there. So okay, final question then, and then we'll let the lovely Craig go for the night. So Kitchi was just asking about, how do you analyze your deals, Craig?
Great question. I guess when you run through them in every day for a year, you kind of just get used to knowing, like sniffing a good deal pretty much straight away. So the only way you exit out of a great deal is where you enter. So really, I'm kind of looking at the below market value deals and the percentage below market value, really. So as an example, we picked up Frank Webb for 70. I think they wanted like 95 for that. It was in a terrible state. Terrible state. So in terms of analysing, I'm really just looking at the entry mostly now. And of course, I come from a slightly different position where, I was kind of fortunate enough to have a pot of cash that would allow me to, invest pretty quickly regardless. But that's not to say that you shouldn't be analysing the deals. I don't use property filter. I don't use landlord. I do use landlord to keep track of my portfolio, but I don't use it to analyze deals. However, next year, once I've got all my compliance done, I probably will do. I'll probably invest in another subscription, and I've been on with is it Property Filter? I've been on with Property Filter quite a few times, and I do like the tool. So yeah, probably something like that I would use. But I have probably get given 10 deals a day, which some I analyze, some I don't, because I just don't have the time. And now all I've started to do is just, if they're not in the right areas, I just delete them, rightly or wrongly. And these are from groups of people that I've started to network with way back when, part of WhatsApp groups, email groups, and personal connections. So yeah, I've kind of relied up until this point on the network and the deal source was bringing me these opportunities. I've been successful to a degree in that. Moving forward, that hopefully that won't always be the case as I get more time and there's not as much of a rush to get to so many properties so quickly. I can take more time to sort of look at my own deals. It can be a little bit picky about areas and types of houses and sort of locations and things like that. So yeah.
I am trying to talk the lovely Victor into doing another talk with us about analysing deals because he has become a bit of a master on that. So hopefully we'll be able to get a session with him maybe early next year because he's so busy setting up his letting and estate agency business at the moment. So, but I think when it comes to analysing deals, it really depends upon the strategy, I guess, that you're looking at as well. What is it you're looking to hold? Are you looking to flip? Do you want to run SA out of it? Is it an HMO? So, at the age-old Touchstone phrase of it depends. You really need to understand what are the good markers are for your particular strategy, and then where do you find those? So obviously, if you're looking for demand for HMO, for example, things like spare room are very, very critical for you, for you to then work out what your rental demands are going to be. Or rental opportunity is going to be for you to then work out, what's the cash flow. Just because you can afford to buy a property, all of the mentors say it. Every deal has to cash flow. Just because you can afford to buy it, if you're losing money every month on a property, it's not worth having. So, just make sure that you understand the usage and, as Greg said, what your exit is. When I've been to PIN meetings, or training, Simon Zucci is very passionate about, and actually Cam Devetti over at Premier Property says it as well. Every single deal should stack as a buy-to-let because that's always your backup plan. So if you're looking at an SA, if you're looking at flipping, I'm not being rude there in this audience, you can say if you're looking at flipping. Just to make sure that you can hold it. Yeah, I think there was a conversation going on in my Wealth Academy group the other day of a lady that had got into a refurb with the intention to flip, and it's been sat on the market for 6 months and not a single offer yet. And it's just because the market's stagnating a little at the moment, waiting to see what happens in the budget and with the latest interest rates. So, and lots of people were saying, just rent it out, like the buy-to-let market is still very much in demand, as long as the area that you went into, has a good rental demand on it. So just make sure every single deal stacks as a buy-to-let and that your exit out of it. So again, Kitchi, if you want to have a chat, love, just put yourself in chat and we can talk about those particular type of deals that you're looking at, and we can have a look at how you analyze those. All right, lovely people. Thank you so much for your time. One quick final slide from me. Let's just talk about what's coming up. Where's my slide gone? There we go. I'll go back to the promo slides. Okay, come on. So we only have one more talk planned. I may pause it after this because everyone's just getting so busy coming up to Christmas, and then kick it off back again in January. But the lovely Tajinda who many of you know she runs the planning WhatsApp group. So she is a very experienced planner. She works at Hammersmith Council in their planning department. She's got lots and lots of experience. She runs a company called The Planning Intermediary with a beautiful website that I designed for her. So that's how Ginger and I know each other very well. But she's going to come on and do one of the first of a series of talks for you guys, talking about planning. So really how to navigate the system and to maximise your property potential, probably within PD rules. She'll focus on a lot of PD, I would imagine, on the 12th. So that is next Wednesday. So if you guys want to do that, sign up to that on happy-friday.uk/property talks. And on there is all of the videos of every single talk that we've done so far this year. I think we're up to, over a dozen already. So there's some fascinating talks on there. So please do have a look. Massive thank you to Craig, Incy, as he gets known. So thank you very much for your time and effort in putting those slides together and your time tonight. If you want to, Craig, share some the contact details, I think you popped it in the chat, but let me know and I will, your Insta handle, and we can get people to connect with you, or however it's easiest for you to connect.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. And as always, guys, I am here to help with your marketing or working out your strategy or working out whatever it is you need to know about property. Please feel free to reach out. I am more than happy to talk anything in property. All right, lovely people. Have a
Thanks,
great
everyone.
evening, and we'll see you all soon. So this property series has been brought to you by Happy Friday Marketing. How can Happy Friday help you? So we can help you with everything from deciding what your strategy is going to be, what your business is going to be, and then what marketing is required for that business. We can help you come up with your logo and business branding. We can help you design your business cards, whether physical or electronic. We can help you with printed ideas like leaflet design, that maybe for mail drops or for handing out at networking meetings. We can help you with the copy, the design, and the build of your website and all the technical aspects around that. We can help you with your social media strategy. Not every strategy is required to be on all social media channels at all times. So let's find what is actually required for you. And then I can help you come up with that strategy as well. And then I'm going to help you with all things once you've found a client. So say you're going to be working with investors, definitely how you present yourself with an investor pack or even a landlord pack if you're going for rent to rent is very, very important to come off in a professional manner. There are two ways of working with me. So we have the traditional done for you service. This is the traditional, you give me a brief or we work on the brief together. I go off and come up with some options, send them back to you, and we go back and forward until we find the perfect fit for you. Or we can have the done with you service. So this is where you may have some design skills yourself or happy using an AI tool. And this is where we can work on those things together just to make sure that you are completely happy with them before they go to launch or to print, whatever you're using. If you do need some help with your marketing or even just come up with your strategy, please feel free to book yourself in for a free 30-minute chat. That QR code will take you to my Calendly link. If that QR code for whatever reason doesn't work, go to happy-friday.uk and click on the Contact Me section. Looking forward to meeting you. Have a great day.